This is Perry Mixter with Power to Give. We are really pleased that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us today for this hopefully very informative and up-to-date webinar about finding new donors and effective project design on Power to Give. We're going to spend the next 60 minutes or so kind of walking through a couple of different topics, a couple of different items. The agenda for today is to talk about current online giving trends, to give you a little bit of an update on Power to Give and the progress that we're making throughout the country. We're going to talk a little bit about designing the ideal project, the components that go into that, and how to refine your message. We're going to also talk about telling your story, how to find donors for your projects, and the different means of messaging that are available to you, and wind up with some tips and tricks from successful posting organizations on Power to Give. This broadcast or this webinar is broadcast only. You do have the capability of asking questions throughout the webinar, and we hope that you'll take advantage of this as we go through. I'll be pausing a couple of times throughout the presentation to go through some questions that you have. So make sure you use that and send that to me, and I'll get them just as soon as I can. Or if you think of something afterwards, you've got my email. It's perry.mixter@artsandscience.org. I'll be happy to respond to you that way as well. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be providing the URL where you can download the slides to this presentation, as well as where you can actually watch this. We're recording this, and you'll be able to watch the broadcast over again, or you can encourage others on your staff to do so. So let's get started. We've seen some real interesting trends happening over the course of the last decade or so. We've seen the percentage of people who have given online increase from 4% in 2001 to well over 65% in 2011, and that data is from about 3 years or 2 years ago. So this is even more this year, we believe. The average gift online has gone from 162 down to 108, and that's just because people are more frequently giving online, and therefore the average gift is a little bit smaller. But you can see that this indicates that people are more and more open to the idea of online fundraising and online donations. And what's more interesting is year over year online giving trends. This is a chart of last year compared to the previous year of online giving month by month, and you can see that that some months are particularly interesting. You can see this particular statistic, the fact that in December 2013, overall giving was up by 1.8%, but online giving compared to the previous year was up 12%. So that's telling us a great deal about the end of the year. We actually see that Power to Give is being utilized a great deal at the end of the year by a number of different folks around the country. But we also see some other folks throughout the year. In fact, we're coming up on a period where there's a large year-over-year increase in online giving, particularly in May and June. So we're in February now. This is the ideal time to be thinking about those projects that are going to be going online in the next couple of months. So interesting trends to look at. Some other crowdfunding facts for your information. On Power to Give, the average posting number of days that each project is posted is about 67. So we see a lot of projects that are funded very quickly, and some go the full duration of the 90 days, but the average posting number of days is 67. So we think that at the 30-day mark, promotion is pretty critical. What essentially could be the halfway point, even though it's actually a third of the way through the maximum number of days, we think that the 30-day mark is a critical time for you to be pushing and promoting your projects. The other thing that's interesting in the crowdfunding sphere is that if your project exceeds 30% of its goal, of its project budget, you have a 90% rate of success, chances of success. So the key is, and we'll be talking about this a little bit later in the webinar, how to get past that 30% mark. We think that the 30% mark kind of represents the go, no-go threshold for projects, so that if a donor looks at it and sees that the thermometer is above 30%, he or she is going to be more likely to support it because they like to back up a winning proposition. So it's getting to that 30% point, which is a challenge and also a goal that we need to work towards. So we'll hopefully provide you with some tips to get there. Also another fact that we're working on is that the average project is about $4,700. Now, on most sites around the country, the maximum project budget is $10,000. There are a few that are less, but we encourage you to think modestly. If you're new to this, we encourage you to start off with a modest project budget maybe in the $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000 range, and be successful with that, and then build from there. So again, we have a wide range of activities on the system, but we want you to encourage you to think modestly as you go forward. Just some statistics about Power to Give across the country. We are now in 22 communities around the country. We are almost to the $5 million mark in terms of funds raised on the system since its inception in 2011. That represents just over 2,000 projects, and that represents 22 individual donations to those projects. The average gift on the system is $129. The most frequent gift size, however, is $50. The average project posted, as I just mentioned, is about $4,700. Matching funds of that total 4.9 million matching funds represent 45% of that total. And as I said, the average project time on the site is 67 days. So we're seeing some very interesting statistics around the country in terms of very similar results from different markets, and we see a lot of great successes throughout the country. Very excited about it. Now, we're not tracking this from our office. We're not tracking this across the country, but at least in Charlotte, we are tracking the measurement of how many new donors are coming through the system, and that percentage is holding at 45%. Of all the donors to Power to Give projects in Charlotte, 45% of them had never given to that organization or to the Arts and Science Council. The other great statistic, and this is a national trend that we've been able to measure, just about 35% of the donors have given more than once on the system. So that's really a great indication that people like Power to Give. It's not a one-time thing, but it's something that they are very excited about supporting. Another interesting statistic for you to look at, this is a chart of the degree of success for each of the projects or all of the projects on Power to Give. You can see that we have about 50% of our projects are 100% funded. And then we have other charts or other statistics lower down. If you look at the 1 to 10% project funding, that's about 20% of our projects. And in fact, between 0 and 30, that represents just about 35%. So that's something that we're watching, and this is what we want to try to help you with so that we can get all your projects past that 30% mark and get it up into the 100% mark. It's interesting to note that how low the percentages are in the 30 to 50, 50 to 80, and 80 to 99% range. You can see that if you can get past that 30% mark, you're in pretty good shape to get to 100%. It's a very interesting statistic across crowdfunding platforms, not just Power to Give, but it is holding up and bearing truth here on the Power to Give site. So a couple of things about just recapping about how donors come. This is kind of the overall philosophy for the Power to Give platform. As you know, your platform is hosted by a local organization, either an arts council or a cultural office of cultural affairs, depending on the community. And their role is to promote the Power to Give brand. And this is done through their websites, through links from their homepage, and also just a couple of examples here, one from Dane Arts in Madison. We have a new partner coming online in a few weeks, Culture Works out of Dayton. So that's their job, is to promote the brand through email messages, through Facebook and Twitter feeds, and through other PR and media activities. They're going to provide technical support to you and help you as you go through the project approval process. And they're also going to work hard to secure matching funds for your projects. But the fact of the matter is that the project's promotion for the individual project is up to you. That is the responsibility of the posting organization, and that directly impacts the funding. We like to say that if your philosophy is to post it and hope that people come, that's really not going to be successful for you. And I think that's borne out by some of the facts, the anecdotal facts that we've heard from the community. So here's some crowdfunding challenges. We've been at this about a little over 2 years, and these are some of the things we're hearing from folks. It does take some getting used to. There is a new philosophy about whether or not crowdfunding is the right thing for folks. We hear responses saying, "Oh, we tried that once; it's not for us." Our constituents don't use social media. And that's just have to stop there, because I think 90% of us, if not more, use at least email. And that is a lot of the social media, in addition to Facebook and Twitter. Obviously, those are kind of secondary activities. Not everybody uses Facebook and Twitter, but almost everybody has an email account that they use to stay in touch with friends and family. We like to think that crowdfunding requires a lot of new thinking, designing projects that are engaging and that are unique, that they are written in a way for the web, that they're brief and compelling, compelling narrative. We hope that folks are incorporating Power to Give as one of a number of different strategies in their annual program plan, so that it is incorporated throughout the organization. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And we'd like to encourage everybody to have a goal of 2 to 3 projects a year at a minimum. Do them sequentially, so that once one is funded, you can post the next one, and keep going that way. Let me just pause really quickly here and see if there are questions. I think we are in good shape. I'm going to increase the volume a little bit. Let's see. Milner Fuller asks, is that an average gift, a mean, or a median? The average gift, that is I believe that's the mean of the gifts involved. Don't see any other questions, so we'll keep on moving along here. Now we want to just recap and remind you that there are 2 different URLs that we encourage you to utilize as part of your Power to Give promotions. One is your permanent URL, and that is the URL that is always going to point to your organization's projects. This is the one that appears on your project dashboard when you log in, and we hope that you are embedding this in all of your online communications, a website link, email signatures. We've seen some great examples of this, but we encourage you to build that into your online presence, wherever that may be, and use that as a permanent reference to all of your projects. Now, if you don't have a project listed, that's going to kind of take folks to a blank page, but that still will always point to your projects when you have them up. So we encourage you to use that. Whoops. And it looks something like this. This is just an example on your Power to Give project dashboard page. It's going to end in a number that follows after the GO/O. So again, look for that on your project dashboard page, and use that wherever you can throughout your online presence. The second URL are your project specific URLs, and these are ones that will expire. However, they do point specifically to your project. So they will take you to a page similar to this one, where your folks, your donors, can see exactly what you're doing with that project. It goes straight to the project narrative. And so we encourage you to use this for your specific project promotions in an email distributed to folks about talking about the excitement or the initiative enthusiasm for a particular initiative. And it looks a little bit longer. Again, it ends with project ID equals and a number. So that will always point to that particular that particular project. So we encourage you to use that when you're specifically promoting a project, but just keep in mind that those do expire. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what to post, and this is a shortened version of what we talk about in our initial training, but it always bears repeating. It's very easy to identify a potential project for posting now, and just think in terms of what it is in your organization that energizes you. What is it that you need? Again, we're halfway through the year, so if you are thinking about this for posting immediately, we encourage you to have a budget relief out of existing operations. And that's fine, but you've got to make it exciting and initiative and inspiring. It should be in some form compelling, impactful, and project-based. So it has a beginning point and an end point. Again, these are all fairly succinct things that you need to think about in terms of posting. Now, of equal or greater importance, we feel, is the cleverness of the title and narrative, having a compelling photo and video, and tying the donor benefits directly to project impact. We also think that obviously the promotion and marketing of each project is very important. This is an example of the cleverness of title and narrative. This is something out of Charlotte where they took a strange picture of this fellow who I think was off the internet or was from the 70s. And this is for a fund to help them with operating support and provide some basic activity or basic budget relief for what they were trying to do, a rainy day fund, so to speak. So this actually is very, obviously very eye-catching and got everybody's attention very quickly, and they were very successful in getting this project funded. Here's another one that they posted. They wanted to have a live professional orchestra for one of their productions, so they put a picture of cats performing classical music, and they threatened to put cats on stage if they couldn't get their professional orchestra funded. So again, an eye-catching photograph makes me want to click through and see what that's all about. So being creative in the project title is very, very important. This is one for the North Carolina Dance Theater, Point Us in the Right Direction. I think that, again, is a play on words. Again, just be creative in what you're coming up with for the project title. And then the project photos, something that's colorful, where the subject fills the frame. Again, the picture in the first item up there I might criticize a little bit because it's such a wide angle picture of those dancers. The second one really captures the spirit and the wonder that child is experiencing in playing the violin. We encourage you to have a square dimension so it fills that frame. So again, these things are somewhat mundane, you might think, but also very important. We also think that including a video dramatically increases the likelihood of your success. We encourage you to think 30 seconds to 2 minutes at the very most. You don't need to have high production values, but just tell your story. Take your iPhone and interview participants and come up with a very quick and dirty video that can be posted on your YouTube account, and it will dramatically increase the ability to tell your story on the project page. Again, this is project narrative. Again, being creative about this. I'll let you read this very creative project narrative. Actually, this is the project narrative that's related to that cat's photo that I mentioned, that I showed you earlier, talking about we talked about the cat thing is admittedly pretty awesome. We decided to go pro and bring in the best players Charlotte has to offer. So again, this is very much being creative with what they're trying to accomplish. Using transparent language means basically to be very specific about what you want, and you can see how they've outlined the budget, to include that budget, as well as including the power to give administrative fees, so the donors are paying that cost. Again, but being creative in the narrative is very important. So your goal is to really drive action, right? You want to get them to that transaction screen. And we do that by generating an emotional response and helping the audience envision and feel that positive impact. I think, when you get down to it, these narratives and the Power to Give presentation needs to both entertain and inform. And you should ask yourself, is your narrative capable of doing these things? If not, you need to refine it. Again, that's to drive that action to that transaction screen. It's going to get them there. So we think that in the crowdfunding sphere and the crowdfunding realm, telling a story about your project is really the most important component. In other words, why is the community better when this project is funded? You should talk about the impact and the benefit of the project, not with the ask or the match. Just to go through some bad messaging and then compare it to some good messaging. Some bad messaging might be give to our project, be pleading for it, help our fundraising on Power to give because your dollars will be matched. Those are kind of tired. They're just not very creative, and donors don't want to really hear that, but they do want to hear about inspiring the next generation of scientists or artists. They want to hear about artists sharing their visions for the future. And maybe how your organization is helping change the community that they're in. Those kind of messaging, that kind of storytelling is really impactful in the Power to Give and designing a good Power to Give project. So we're going to kind of summarize a couple of things with the perfect pitch. We think that there are 5 elements to really having a great pitch on Power to Give. The first one is to zoom in and set the scene for your audience. What is it? What are you talking about, basically? The second item is to explain what the problem is in that context. Tell them what's going on and tell them how you're going to solve that problem or take advantage of an opportunity. The third component is the solution you are proposing. Again, when you avoid the buzzwords and talk about it in plain language, it really is impactful to them to say, okay, we're going to be able to provide this service to this group of people to help solve this problem. The fourth component is impact. How are you going to change people's lives with this project? And then when the ask does come, how much do you need and what do you want to spend it on? And the transparency comes through at that point. And just to take those 5 steps and put it into an actual example that we've seen, in Charlotte, we have the great organization's Community School of the Arts, and they have a program where they provide financial aid to about a quarter of their students. But they've had way more requests for funding for those students than they can provide. So their solution is we can make the benefits of arts education, improved self-esteem, better grades and test scores, innovation, and transferable lifelong learning skills available to all the children, regardless of their family's finances. That's the solution that they're proposing. And then the impact of this project, the school can provide 120 weekly 30-minute music lessons for children whose parents could not otherwise afford that instruction. Just $25. That's a total budget of $10,000 for this project. And the way they monetized it is in terms of what you can do. If for $25, just as low as $25, you can give one student one weekly lesson. Now that's a lot different than asking $25 towards a $10,000 project. When you can monetize it and be as specific as possible to the donor to see that impact. I know that thinking about it from my own personal situation, I would be very excited at the idea that my $25 would pay for one student lesson per week. That's really a great way of monetizing what they're trying to accomplish. Now we're going to talk about target audiences here for a second, but let me go ahead and see if there are any other questions at this point. Not seeing any. We'll keep on going. I'll check back a little bit later on the questions. So let's talk about the target audiences and this whole issue of finding new donors. Got to keep in mind that not all projects are going to appeal to all people. So you need to think about who are the people that your project is going to speak to. Think about the 2 to 3 specific constituencies to target for each of the projects you're considering. And we The other nuance in Power to Give is the capability of creating projects that appeal to different constituencies that you're providing services to. These constituencies could be your volunteers, they could be season subscribers, they could be those affiliated with the programs, the people that are receiving the benefits of your project. For instance, if you're providing educational programs, perhaps the parents of the students that you are serving would be one of those target audiences. So how do you identify, take time to think about the different constituencies that would be open to hearing about your project. Then you take, from that idea, you take those two to three prospect pools, and you identify them as your target audiences. You then, the best thing to do is to identify one or more individuals who can serve as project advocates for each one of those target audiences, perhaps the head of the PTA, or perhaps the head of your volunteer organization. And then think about, with that ambassador, what are you trying to get each of those target audiences to do? Is it, obviously you want them to support the Power to Give project, but you might also want them to talk about it in their next newsletter, or you might want to talk about it at the next event, specific things that they can do for you. And then why should your target audience care about the project? You need to determine the motivations. Well, sometimes it might be because it's helping their kids or their kids' friends. Other times it might be for, some people like the social connections and the networking that happens when you get together in a group of people. Just think about the different motivations of each of those target audiences. And then finally, how do you connect with them? This is a very simple project promotional plan that we've put together. This is just a sample, and this is a great template. And again, you can pull this off of the slides afterward when you download this presentation. But this really outlines a very simple marketing plan that targets 3 different groups for a specific project. The project, and again, it goes from the left to the right. Being on the left, it's general, and moving to the right, you get more specific. But the project here is to support funds for fireworks at the Symphony's 4th of July concert. So thinking about what are the top 2 to 3 groups you need to engage. The Symphony thought about the board members, about their young affiliates groups, and about musicians. So those are the 3 target groups that they identified. Then they identified an advocate for each one of those. For the board members, it was a particular vice chair. For the young affiliate groups, it was the co-chair of that group. And then for the musicians, the lead cellist was someone who was willing and able to take on this project. Then they talked about the calls to action for each of those groups. What is it they're going to be doing? Or what do they want them to do? And what is the message? That's the next column. Fun and entertaining. Supporters, for the young affiliates group, recognition is more important. So the supporters' names would be read before the fireworks show. And again, going all the way down to the specific tactics on the far right, where you talk about specific ways of reaching folks and what that message is. When identifying ambassadors, who are these folks? Again, some other examples, might be the creative director or the artistic director could reach a whole different group of folks than perhaps someone on your board could. The curator might be an option in an art museum, trying to identify folks that can support a particular exhibition or activity. Again, being as specific as possible with the person or persons who are going to carry that message. The call to action, again, talking about, obviously you want them to give to the project. That's obviously the first thing. Solicit others to support the project, very important. Including the project in existing social media updates and PR efforts, obviously wherever that's possible, you want to be doing that. But the gift is not the only thing you want. The key to Power to Give is that you want your initial ambassadors and your initial supporters to share this with folks who you are not otherwise connected with. So we're going to talk now about donor prospect pools, and we like to think of these in 2 different categories. The first one is what we call the primary network. This is the one where all of us are fairly familiar with. This is not rocket science, but this is the group that's going to get you to that 30% and beyond. These are your active supporters, your ticket buyers, your attendees, your current donors, and incidentally, we've seen little to no cannibalization. If you ask a $1,000 donor to your annual campaign, their $50 contribution to Power to Give is not going to impact their ongoing support. So we encourage you to think in those terms. We see the Power to Give also as a terrific opportunity to reach out to what we call libunts, last year but not this year, folks who have given to you in the past but for whatever reason have stopped doing so. Obviously, board members, volunteer staff, that's kind of your first tier. For those of you who have been doing Power to Give for a little bit, look at your Power to Give donor lists from your past projects. You can pull those right off your project dashboard. We hope that you're taking advantage of that. And then, as we mentioned, affinity groups. If you have programs in education or science or history, identifying those specific folks who are benefiting from your programs. Those are all your primary networks, and you should be thinking about how to engage those folks in Power to Give. What we don't really think about until we get to crowdfunding are the idea of secondary networks. And this is where we get a little bit more creative, but these are the folks that can take you from 30% to 100%. So these are the friends and friends of your primary network. All of the folks that we mentioned on the previous slide, all those folks have networks, and this is where you're going to try to reach those folks. Getting your board members to agree to share with 20 of their friends and colleagues. That would be a terrific challenge that you can issue to your board. Asking your Power to Give donors who know the excitement and enthusiasm about supporting your project through Power to Give, ask them to help you spread the word. Asking your supporters to post the project URL to their Facebook timeline. These are all things that can be done really, really easily. It's not even as difficult as it used to be when you had to get out your stationery and write a letter and address the envelope and put a stamp on it and walk out to the mailbox. It's as simple as writing an email. Again, your organization's posting your project to Facebook page if you have one. We encourage you to do that. We've seen a lot of success in communities where there are a young professionals group, maybe a young technology IT group. They might adopt a project for the 90 days that you've got it up, and they can help promote that for you. But again, all these secondary networks are really important ways of spreading the word about your project. And a new thing that we're seeing is giving circles. We see folks who are taking this on as their primary way of being philanthropic. Getting into those giving circles with Power to Give is a great way to get the word out. Let me see. I see a question pop up. Let me take a minute to answer that. Karen Dyroff asks, what if my project is new in the area? How do we locate pools of donors with ambassadors? Well, I would sit down if you can. I'm not sure if you're asking about how to get pools of donors or how to find ambassadors, but obviously when you're new to an area, the first thing is to identify maybe opinion leaders that you can approach and talk to about your project. Talk about it in terms of spreading the word and getting those opinion leaders to help you get the word out in the community. I hope that answers your question, but we really see that opportunity with opinion leaders coming in and helping you identify folks in the community that can spread the word for you. I think those would be very valuable meetings to arrange if you can. So obviously there are many means of messaging. Obviously email campaigns. This is an example of one that we've seen here in Charlotte. This is just some language in an email to the board of directors. In talking about suggested language, we have lots of templates available to you where you can copy and paste this information. But in this particular thing, the messages, we've got 3 projects on Power to Give. All 3 have matching challenge grants. And then below that, she lists the win-win-win and the 3 different messages that we're trying to convey. Again, asking each board member to take one or more of those messages and send that out to their friends and family. Facebook postings. This is, again, built into Power to Give so that when somebody makes a contribution or even sees the project, doesn't necessarily have to make a contribution, but it obviously will take that particular URL link, and put it in that posting person's timeline. This is a screenshot from one that I posted to my timeline, and I can even personalize it and say something about that particular project, which had to do with sending kids to England to sing wonderful choral music. Twitter feeds. Now, not this is a little bit more esoteric. Not every organization has Twitter activity, but we have a lot of folks who are using Twitter, and this is one from obviously a picture of some kids showing the Power to Give hashtag and the Power to Give logo. Help us bring Tacoma students to the theater with Power to Give and the Arts Fund. Again, so this is one tweet about a particular project that this organization sent out to all of their constituents. In-person gatherings, we've seen a lot of creative uses of Power to Give. This is an example of an invitation to a cocktail reception, and one of the benefits of the $35 ticket is that you get a $10 Power to Give gift card where you can donate to a CAST project during the party. So, how great is that? They're involving their constituents, their invitees to participate in Power to Give right there. And again, ambassador activities, if you've got Rotary Club, all sorts of different, if you've got PTO meetings, take time to identify what your ambassadors are involved with and see if you can get a presence at one or more of those events. Okay, so some suggestions for email campaigns. One of the things that we particularly want to encourage you is not to over communicate. We're going to suggest here in a moment what you might perceive to be fairly aggressive form of communication, but I think with doing it properly, you will see that it will have some great impact. This is where you're going to use that project-specific URL to promote a specific project or program on Power to Give. So we're going to outline a brief going to suggest a plan of action for communicating via email. The first one is at the launch. The message might come from the executive director. The message will tell the story about the project and talk about, for instance, if there are matching funds and how that will help leverage the program. The call to action of that message is to donate and spread the word. Okay. At 30 days, perhaps the board chair will send an email to that same group or a different group, telling the impact of Power to Give and telling the impact of how the organization is making a difference in the community. The call to action is to really be a part of what we're doing, be a part of the family that we're making a difference in our community. And then maybe with 7 days to go before your project is done, a message from the artistic or program director talking about how this project could change lives if we could just get it past the goal. And the call to action there is help us, and we'll connect you to those recipients. We're going to get that to you, get that information and connect you. And then as you count down the final 24 hours, perhaps to hear back from the executive director saying, we're so close, help us, put us over the top, and donate and spread the word. Now, we want to be clear that this should be done in an effective but respectful way. And again, this is just one suggestion. We think you guys obviously are the best. You have the best handle on what your donors and your supporters will be able to be receptive to. But this is just one proposal. If you think this is a little too aggressive, then you can tone it back a little bit. But again, we think this perpetual drip of information really helps the public understand what it is you're trying to do through Power to Give. Saw a question pop up here. How do Power to Give gift cards work? Barbara, that's a great question. Not sure what community you're in, but some of our communities don't have physical gift cards, but all communities have virtual gift cards, which can be purchased on the Power to Give site. It works just like any other gift card. You can either give it to an individual or you can purchase it, and then you can purchase a physical card if you have those in your community and have that sent to someone. But again, that enables, those are loaded up with a specific dollar amount, and the recipient can then go on Power to Give and use the gift card in lieu of a credit card. So it basically works just like any other transaction, except it is with the gift card. If you have any questions about the physical, whether you have a physical printed gift card in your community, you can contact your site host organization. So individual email messaging is a little bit different than an email campaign, but this is where the donor, once they make a gift to a project, they will have the option to share that project with friends and family right at the point of their confirmation page. So if they click on that email icon, they're going to get a little pop-up window. They can then populate that with email addresses, and they can then spread the word. So we encourage you, when you talk to your donors, make sure that they spend just a few minutes filling this out so that their friends can see, can be directed specifically to this project. This is how things transmit virally on Power to Give. So for Facebook, again, using the project specific URL, again, if you clicked on that Facebook link in that donor confirmation page, again, they can also click on it from this point. If they click on the Facebook page, the Facebook icon, that's going to take them to their project, or not their project timeline, but their Facebook timeline, and it's going to post a project. It's going to post a comment on the timeline. So here's one that I did for the North Carolina Dance Theater that I thought was really terrific. So again, giving the donor a specific opportunity to spread the word to their friends and family via Facebook. Very easy to do. Twitter feeds, again, this is an example of you can see a countdown going from the bottom to the top. Someone at CAST was really on top of this this activity, and this Angels in America project was fully funded on Power to Give. But you can see with 5 hours left, 4 hours left, 3 hours left. This was actually during the Grammys, and so one of the messages was, during the next Grammys break, become a producer of Angels in America on Power to Give. And talking about the bonus of the matching gifts. But again, this is great for last-minute campaign efforts to get the word out about your project to your constituents if you have a lot of Twitter followers. And again, every time you use the Power to Give hashtag, that's going to be tied to our national Power to Give posts, and will be conveyed to everybody throughout the country. So this is a great unified campaign of getting the word out using that @Power to Give Twitter handle. We have a new feature on Power to Give called Power to Give Testimonials, and this happens when someone clicks on the project testimonials link. If you look at each of your projects, you'll see that there's this additional listing right above or right below the summary. And this is an opportunity for donors to post terrific notes of appreciation. Here's one from St. Louis about the St. Louis Guitar Society. We have full capability of monitoring these, so if there's any inappropriate comments, they'll be edited and removed, so you don't have to worry about that. But again, we encourage you to have your donors post comments about the projects they're passionate about through the project testimonial. Media coverage is great. We've seen some wonderful project promotions. This is a couple of different examples from around the country, but I encourage you to let the media know if you've got a really interesting project, especially as you wind down to the deadline. It would be a great opportunity to get some online promotions or a short feature article about what you're trying to do. So again, we encourage you to think that way as well. A couple of things about different strategies that we've seen happen, and this, we're going to show you a couple of slides here that show gifts over time just to different projects. This is one you can see the cumulative dollar amount is here on the left, and then we see the dates going from left to right. And you can see that this particular campaign, there was a big push at the beginning to get donations, and then you can see it kind of tails off a little bit. And then toward the end, last couple of days, they went ahead and did a final push to get them to the top of their funding efforts. So again, push coast to push campaign might be one strategy. And again, we see that a great deal of benefit in pushing your project or promoting your project heavily at the start, and then again at 30 days, and then as your project comes up for when it comes up for expiration. Another one is the big gifts encourage others. So we see here a big gift. Whoops, a big gift was made after a few days on the site, and then we saw another one, and you see these large gifts really encouraging others to give throughout the campaign. So another strategy. I'm not sure I want to recommend this one too heavily, but obviously this group kind of waited until the last minute when they raised $4,000 in 5 days for a project that had up until the 5th day before it went off the air, had only $500. So again, not sure we're going to recommend that to you, but that is one strategy that you kind of hold your fire until the very last, and then you get the word out and get it funded. More and more we're seeing organizations, and as we get more experienced with this platform, the importance of engaging your entire organization. We really encourage, for those of you listening that have a marketing and development staff divisions, we encourage you to take Power to Give and make it everyone's project and not just a departmental project. Get rid of those silos, because this really is both marketing and fundraising. So we encourage you to brainstorm ideas at staff meetings, come up with a couple of different choices, and then we encourage you to engage your board. And this is really for the long run. This is not just kind of project by project, but share those ideas for the 2 or 3 projects that you want to do, and then have them endorse it, and then immediately ask them to take on to help you promoting it, either through personal or other means. Again, this is per the plan that we talked about earlier with ambassadors. But again, getting your board to support you. We've got lots of templates and message content and suggested language that we can share with you to make this really easy. This is not rocket science. Done it many times before. And if you have questions or need to access that information, just shoot me an email. I'll be glad to point you in the right direction. And to further the cycle, get feedback from them on what the next project might be. So you're constantly engaging your board and getting them to support it. Now, if you have a really big board, again, you might want to work through a development committee or marketing committee, but the idea is that you get everybody in your organization involved. This is not just one person's idea. We, about a year ago and ever since then, we've been asking for advice from folks who have done this for a while, and we wanted to share those with you. Again, just a couple, these are somewhat related, and then some are a little bit outside the box, but here's some quotes from different folks. We personally reach out to our current donors via email and then invite them to participate in Power to Give. So again, fairly straightforward strategy. We found that personal emails targeted to specific donors are significantly more successful than a mass email. So that personalized effort is really important. I've been using some email, I guess they're called merging, where you can merge names and addresses so that the emails are customized. Found great success with that, and if you need tips on that, be glad to share those with you. But again, as much as you can, personalize those emails. Again, we empower our board to engage their family and friends in Power to Give. Again, a very strong commitment to getting the board to participate. We make a point of properly stewarding new donors through Power to Give. In some cases, this has led to significant new gifts to our organization outside of the platform. So this organization is seeing that Power to Give is a great kind of gateway experience for their new donors. We'll talk about that in just a second. Reach out to your core community and emphasize the impact of matching funds. Most of our sites have some form of matching funds. Some are one-to-one, some are 50 cents on the dollar, but we encourage you to use that as leverage in mentioning your project. Connect the projects to the mission of the organization. In our case, it's better to fund costumes for a play than to fund the electric bill, even if they cost the same. This gives the donors a direct connection to the mission. So again, that passion and that motivation for involving the donor is really critical. Again, projects should be presented through engaging copy that clearly and easily explains the need. And again, I may not have mentioned this to the extent I should, but humor really, we see humor really being an important component of Power to Give. This is a note I got from one of our supporters in Charlotte, and I can't tell you the fact that it's handwritten. It was only for $10, but this really told me a great deal that this organization is really on the ball. And the tip that I would give you is to once they have made that Power to Give contribution, thank them, thank them, thank them. We give you 3 opportunities to do that. Obviously, when they give, and that's this example. When the project posting is finished, send them an email, tell them how excited you are that we were able to raise X dollars for this project, and we're so happy that they're a part of making that possible. And finally, when the project begins, send them a note saying, you remember back in February you gave to summer camps? Well, we're now doing those summer camps, and we want to thank you for your support. By the way, we're going to have an open house on June 3rd. We'd love to have you come down. Again, get them involved, and that begins the stewardship process for greater gifts. We don't think Power to Give, we don't promote Power to Give as a be all and end all for your fundraising. When you're only raising $2,000 or $3,000 at a time, that's not a lot of money. But I'm telling you, we've seen a lot of success in organizations taking those $25, $50 gifts and turning them into something much more significant for their organization down the road. Think about Power to Give, and I think I mentioned it before, that you always have a project in mind. Post a project, and when that one gets to 75%, create another one. And when that one is done, get another one ready so that you always have a project ready to go on Power to Give. Again, we like to think the 2 to 3 projects a year. 4 would be perfect, but we know that everybody's busy. But thinking about that rolling pipeline concept so that you've always got something there to look at. The key here, though, is to vary the target audiences. I'm not suggesting that you perpetually promote 2 to 3 projects a year to the same people. I think they might tend to get a little tired of hearing from you. So think about the different kinds of audiences that you've got. Do an educational program in the spring, do something for your mainstream audience in the summer, and then have something different in the fall. But think about the different audiences that you can promote those to. If you need inspiration, we do have a great component of Power to Give, which we think will be greatly useful to you, and that is the completed project section. Every site has a list of completed projects, and so we encourage you to go visit different communities in Power to Give and look at the completed projects for the organizations that are similar to yours, and get the ideas that are there and see what it is. Again, we encourage you to look at that as an option for coming up with new ideas. See a couple of questions here. Corey Skirdal talks about advice on combating social media weariness and/or overload. Well, I suppose that is something we all have to deal with. Haven't really addressed that as an issue. I would think, Corey, that the best thing you can do is to vary your message, to think about why people are tuned into you on different social media platforms, and perhaps vary the message so that they aren't so weary. Again, we're always coming up with new ideas on this. We think that Power to Give, because it connects to a specific project, it's not just promoting some general request for support. But we think the project-based nature might help you address that issue of weariness, so that you're talking about requesting specific support for a specific program. Aisha Strothers asks, will this webinar be taped and recorded? Yes, Aisha, if you'll stay tuned, we'll show you how to get a hold of both the slides for this program as well as the video. We'll show you how to find those at the end of the session. Want to make sure that everybody's using the Power to Give data that is available to you on your project dashboard. Again, you can pull reports such as this one for each of your projects so that you get specific information about your donors. We encourage you to take a look through the list and identify new donors, how many of those are new, and treat them as royalty. We think those folks are absolute gold, and we've seen such a great result from that. But take a look at the donors that are on those lists and encourage them by inviting them to other activities. And make sure, for goodness sakes, that you add all these donors to your main donor database. Again, a great new source of possible support. Some great online resources for you. The Power to Give YouTube channel, and again, if you write these down, again, these slides will be available to you, but if you just do a Google search for any one of these bold-faced texts, you'll be able to get to them very quickly. This webinar's video, as well as some great videos that we have gathered from other events, are on our YouTube channel. We encourage you to bookmark that and take a look at it. That way that if you have new staff members coming online, they can watch this video or they can watch some other, we have some basic training videos for someone who's new to Power to Give. All that information is on our YouTube channel. Great resource that I've found is the Nonprofit Hub. Talks about different social media activities for nonprofits. Beth Cantor has a great technology in the arts blog at her bethcantor.org. I think most of us are familiar with the National Arts Marketing Project, which is at artsmarketing.org, has some great resources for social media, online marketing, that sort of thing. Nonprofit Tech for Good, another resource we've seen is very helpful. And finally, the Council of Nonprofits has a great website called Social Media for Nonprofits. I'm sure there are dozens of other ones, but these are the ones I've referred to a lot and encourage you to take a look at if you're just new to this. So in summary, wrapping this up, designing compelling projects, institutionalizing Power to Give throughout your organization is really going to help you. Develop simple but effective promotional campaigns for each of your projects, thinking through who those target audiences are, using your primary and also discovering those secondary networks. Again, it's not it's not pulling things out of thin air, but it is taking the folks who you are most familiar with and asking them, enlisting their help to get you to promote the projects to get you past the finish line. Using those embedded Power to Give features to leverage the donors and to reach new projects, and also we think importantly to bring back non-renewing donors, as we talked about earlier. Again, learning about social media, about how to use social media and applying it to Power to Give projects. We are seeing every day, we think we're the experts, but we're learning new stuff all the time. So we encourage you, if you find something that works for you, please share it with us, and we'll be glad to spread that around. But again, we think that there's great opportunity in social media. I do obviously have to be concerned about social media fatigue, but I think the project-based nature of Power to Give really helps you combat that, because you're always giving your audiences something new to think about and to support. And then finally, once you have those donors, use this as a method to bring them into your organization, make them feel part of your family. So there's going to be a survey at the end of this, when we're done here. As you exit the webinar, you'll be taken to a screen, and there's a very short survey, ask you to fill that out. There's also a link there that you can copy out and paste into your browser to download this presentation so you have it. But we'd appreciate if you'd fill out that survey. That really helps us provide future content. We're going to be providing these kind of webinars on a quarterly basis. We have a basic training one, we have this one, and we have a couple more coming up, but we encourage you to keep in touch with us. We're always trying to improve our support to you all. We hope that you're finding Power to Give to be a useful component of your social media marketing and your efforts to promote your projects. I'll stay on the line here in case there are any last questions. I don't see any at the end. So I'm going to end the broadcast, but I'll stay online to answer any additional questions. I want to thank you all very much for your time this afternoon. Hope you have a great weekend, and let us know how we can support you with Power to Give. Thanks so much.